Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Legends of Tomorrow, a great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, there's a whole situation where, they're all enjoying, it's like, yeah, we got our immortality going, so, wait, where's Astra? Then it's like, oh crap, she most likely took off with the rings and everything. They're trying to get in touch with Gideon. They can't. So they've got to go because there ends up being because Ava says that basically Rip set up all these Time Bureau safe houses almost type of thing all across the world, and there's one in London, so all they have to do is get there, and they have to take, it's because we're immortal superheroes, and then it's oh, we're immortal superheroes who have to take the bus. I'm like, yeah, you can only get this stuff on Legends of Tomorrow. Hell yeah. I just loved it. And it's well, at least we look good in doing it. It's kind of what Nate was saying, looking how great we look and everything. And so it's just the fact is, it's Constantine, how do you not have a car? For him, it's he basically gets a ride from other people. So it's okay. And it's how long do we have to wait? It's either in 1 minute or 3 hours. I can't really tell. And so the bus shows up and it's oh, who's going to pay? Does anyone have any money? And he's well, I'm not letting you on the bus. And then Rory throws him off the bus, and it's just oh, poor bastard. And I love Ava being I know this is going to sound weird, but we are the good guys, because they were trying to say literally the fate of the world is in our hands, so we need to be on this bus. I was almost hoping there would be other people on the bus too, but it's nah, it's just them. And so Mick is driving and everything, and should we tell Mick he's driving on the wrong side of the road? It's nah, it'll just confuse him. So then there's a whole thing with Zari telling Constantine not to smoke. You would think, especially knowing that, I guess for him it's well, lung cancer is going to be the thing that kills me anyway. I already know that. I've got 10 years. So it's kind of I guess would your continuing smoking actually speed that up, or is it kind of a once your death's set in stone, it's set in stone type of situation? I'm sure you could, you could definitely speed it up with the clock and everything and help, but you get what I'm trying to say. But she's basically saying because obviously for him, he's in a mood of just Astra tried to help her, she betrayed us. It's just kind of what's the point? But it's no, it's not what's the point. The sky hasn't fallen. It's all good. As long as everything's okay, we still have a chance to kind of make this all right, get my brother back and everything. At the same time, Astra's aboard with Lachesis and Astropo, and I love that Gary's on the ship too, and he's there with Gary Jr. Too, and so the fact of the matter is, and I thought it was such an interesting thing. Obviously, they're trying to convince Astra, oh, you can work with us. She's I'm only doing this because, I owe you and everything. So, but what's interesting though is it's okay, so what do you? She's all right, the first thing we're going to do is get rid of, what was it she said? Was it plums or something like that? She said basically get rid of it. It's those are nasty. And then we're going to make it so that all dogs because all dogs should stay puppies forever, so I'm going to make that thing. And third, I want my mom back, So I also appreciate them giving her, humor. Obviously, we got a humorous side of her last episode, but I appreciate them kind of giving it to her in this, particular moment as well. But obviously, it's that thing of, oh, why would you want your mom back? Lakeisha's just trying to show her, that basically oh, if you bring your mom back, she's just going to die anyway. It's just but it's because it's she's so used to the supernatural order of things. It's because let's not forget, she lost her mom when she was a little girl, so she grew up in hell, so she's used to things being unnatural. So the natural course of a human life, it's your mom will get old and eventually die. Do you want that? Why bring her back just to go through that pain again? Because John made you think oh, your mom comes back and everything's going to be okay, but he didn't tell you about just how terrible the human condition can be, in a sense that she'll just die and you'll be left alone again. So that makes her a little more reserved. And then Astropo was using the rings, and I thought it was interesting because it seemed she was struggling to use it. To be fair, you need all three of them to use it, so her just using it a little bit, you saw her scan, her hands start darkening. It was almost it was killing her or whatever to use it, so she ends up taking it off and it seemed her hand was fine again. But I was oh, I guess if even he says, or Astropo uses it on their own, it could potentially end up killing them to do it. Maybe, I don't know, because maybe even they're not strong enough maybe they're not as powerful as they once were. Once again, they probably do need the trio, so even just doing it one at a time just isn't enough. But nevertheless, what that ends up being the case, like Mick's driving and he hits a lady and they're, oh my god, Mick, I think you killed her. He's like, no, she's not dead. See, she's moving. And it's like, what's up? And she's a zombie. I'm like, dude. And the episode goes full blown Walking Dead. Truth be told, it's more like The Last of Us zombies. It's The Last of Us, runners meets The Walking Dead walkers, just because like they move super fast because they're a fast walking type of zombies. And I love the whole situation of like it turns into a full on brawl with these zombies, everybody kicking ass. I love that John's ready to fight too, but they're not coming after him. He's like, oh, the benefits of having a damned soul, like they can't register his soul because his soul is basically as good as in hell because it's bound for hell. So like it doesn't register to them like, oh, we should come after him. So they're literally going after everyone else. But at one point, like Mick ends up ripping one zombie's arm off. He starts like whacking people. I was like, dude, it's like this is Legends of Tomorrow, dude. It's like this show gets wilder and wilder with every new season, and it's so goddamn good. Like holy crap! Like what other show can we see? I mean, like the only other show that's ever had someone fighting a zombie was like the Flash, because his bully when he was younger died and got resurrected by someone and came back as a zombie. I think that's the only other show that's on a zombie, to my recollection. I'm sure there might be some examples that you might bring up, be like, oh no, this and that. But regardless, but like they can't leave because the bus is messed up. It's like it'll take a long time to fix it. John knows someone nearby; they could go there, and obviously it's like everyone wants Zari to stay behind because she's the one that doesn't have immortality, but she's like, she doesn't want to just sit around and do nothing. If it means, getting closer to saving her brother, so she wants to just feel like she's doing something. John's kind of telling her it's kind of almost pointless. Like, the fact of the matter is, almost every timeline wants your brother dead to a certain extent. And that is kind of the crazy thing of like, he's like, maybe it's almost fate and destiny that Ebirad dies because the original timeline he died. You changed everything. You literally changed the timeline and he still managed to end up dying. So maybe it's kind of, his fate. Like, it's just like John was kind of throwing it in the towel, but obviously like Zari wasn't dealing with his pessimism, and obviously John was kind of like, oh, good job, Johnny boy. Like it's a thing of in his mind, it's like him trying to bring her back to reality. It's like you being naively optimistic isn't going to help you. It's just going to hurt you more in the end. So he's trying to brace her for that. But they show up at Joe's place. A whole bunch of zombies are there, so they can't get to the car. And I love Zari, like her way when she ended up taking down that zombie. It's just like a chain reaction. Knock it into the airbag. The airbag sends it flying into the spike, and it's dead. And she's just like trying not to throw up. And she's like, just putting this away, so I can talk about this in therapy later on. I was just like, but the only way to kind of get them past all the zombies is like John has to stop her heart and everything, and she's like, okay, fine, just do whatever it is you need to do. And it's like, oh, like she's just, I'm mad that the last face I'm gonna see is your ugly mug. He's like, it's better than the zombie. She's like, debatable. So he stops her heart. They get to the truck and he tries to start her heart again, but it doesn't work. Especially him walking past all those zombies like that definitely felt like it definitely felt like a Walking Dead type of thing. But he was scared at first. He's like, crap. But then luckily her heart started. They were able to kind of go. Our crew gets attacked because like the army, the military shows up. And it's just like, whoa, these people are zombies. It's like, no, we're not zombies. And they shoot Ava in the head. It's like, whoa. And she pops up and she's regenerated. They're like, oh my God, these zombies are able to heal or whatever. And it's like, you can't kill them with just a headshot. And then Rory's like, what kind of zombies talk? And you're like, these super zombies have become intelligent or something, and then take them all in. And I love that, like, while they're all just kind of locked up, like, Mick is like, I promised Lita I wouldn't get locked up again. This stays between us. And then Nate saying, like, what kind of zombies dress like this? So, and they're trying to come up with a plan, and it's just kind of like, hey, we have, a man who can turn into steel. We have a shapeshifter. We have a reformed thief. Turned something she was referring to Mick, and he's like, hey, who you calling reformed? And he was like, a blind assassin. Like, we'll find a way out of this. But Mick, because he was in an exact situation like this before, he's like, oh, I know, like there's a weak point in the truck. Nate steals up and knocks it off, and they all jump off the moving vehicle, and because of their immortality, they ended up all being okay. Nate was already steeled up, but I also like that. I didn't talk about it, but I liked that the fact is, I thought it was just like, oh, allocated to them, but when you think back to the map that Astropro was doing, like it went to a significant amount of like the country, so it's like, oh, so like it's become like a problem in Europe now, or at very least in London. So even to the point like the military had to get involved. It is literally turned into a, and like obviously like they're all kind of adjusting, like popping their bones back into place of like, oh god, that sucks. And then there was this family that was coming by, but Ava was hurt and she's looking and limping like a zombie, and they're just like, yeah, you're giving off that vibe, and she has to like fix her leg, and it's like, oh, they have to walk there. So they managed to run into Constantine and Zari, and I love that like they make it to the place, and I love it's like, be right back, zombie apocalypse, and I love that they spelled apocalypse wrong the first time, so they crossed it out and spelled it right the second time. But it turns out, hey, the watch needs to charge, damn it. So it's like everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. At the same time, Gary was trying to fix Gideon, and he turns Gideon, like he tries to like hook Gideon back up and gets electrocuted, and then he sees Gideon. I was like, yeah! I get excited whenever the actress who gets to play Gideon gets to just like be like herself instead of just the voice. I think that's so dope when she gets that opportunity to, because it's funny, because it's like this is only the third time in the series that she's ever been able to do that, because obviously like only 3 people have ever seen her as a human, as Gideon as a human, and that's first Rip, then Zari, specifically OG Zari, and well, OT Zari, OTL, original timeline Zari, and now Gary. And then he's seeing her and he's just like, oh my god, you're so human. I thought he was going to comment on the fact is, I'm like, oh my god, you're so beautiful. You know, so that's what I was thinking about. And then immediately my brain was like, oh, I was shipping stuff. I was like, oh, no pun intended. I was like, oh my god, are we going to start like a Gary and Gideon thing? Because there was kind of a little bit of a thing between Gideon and Rip. Which I was, obviously, because the show's always kind of had a little bit of a Doctor Who like resemblance, especially with obviously like Arthur, who was the actor who played Rip, who was also Rory, and Doctor Who, was also because like that was a storyline in Doctor Who where like the TARDIS inhabits a body, which also makes me think of Killjoys because oh my god, I'm blanking on her name. Lucy, Jesus, I'm so pissed at myself for almost forgetting Lucy's name. It's like that was a storyline, that was an episode in Killjoys as well, where like Lucy ended up getting a human. Tangents and all that. It's just I like that type of story, and it's just interesting that it's like, oh, Gary and Gideon get to have misadventures and stuff like that. And the moment she's like all distracted and she starts hopping like a bunny, I was like, oh my god, she's the bunny. She's Gary Jr. too, but she doesn't like, in Gary's warped mind, he's seeing Gideon, but it's actually Gary Jr. too. That's what I thought it was. And he ends up stealing the rings and everything. And obviously Astra knew who was on the ship the moment she saw the carrots and everything. But then they're celebrating and everything. Gideon's like, oh, we should get our own... Gary's like, we should get our own spin-off. What was it, like, Gideon and Gary going on adventures? And then she's like, oh, that sounds so awesome, Gary. And it was just like, dude, I'm like, this seems like even more of a thing. And then she's like, so he's like, basically, he's like, oh, how we stopped them from having complete control of the ship. We destroyed the ship. She's like, how about something a little bit suicidal? And he's like, that could be fun. I'm like, dude. And then it's like, all right, like... we gotta get the team up here, but Astra shows up, and it's like all 3 of them there, and they're like, Gary's talking like, what do I do, Gideon? And he looks down, and it's just Gary Jr. too, and they're like, oh, he's so crazy, he's just talking to his bunny. But it turns out it's not even that maybe she was the entire time, I'm not sure, but the fact that Gary Jr. 2 was over there makes me think I was right, but then she pops up behind them and go like, oh yeah, actually I've been like a part of your subconscious the entire time. You needed kind of confidence and help in this situation, so it manifests itself as me. Like, you just need the courage, Gary, you know. So Astra's threatening him. He's like, yeah, I might be kind of a little bit out of my mind right now seeing stuff, but he uses magic to cloak this ring. So I'm like, oh dude, that's so dope. But then Astra's threatening kind of to torture him and everything. Heads, fingers, knees, and toes, and he's like, how about none of that? And then but then like he starts talking to her. It's like, wait, you saw your mom die again? He's like, man, if I were you, that'd be pretty much. She's like, yes, I am not okay, but the fact of the matter is that, you know. But Gary talked to her. It was like, yeah, but is that all? You know, like, he just showed you, like, what about all the good stuff? She's like, even as a kid, I'm sure you had good memories of your mom. It's like, would you like to tell me? And she talks about a memory she had of her mom. He's like, oh, your mom sounded like a really awesome person. She's like, she was. And she's like, just enough. But the fact of the matter is, and I thought was kind of a neat thing that Gary said, it's like, you are not, you actually, he's like, you're a good person. Like, the fact of the matter is, when Ava extended her hand, you came and joined the Legends. Like, you left them behind and took a leap of faith on the Legends. So, and in that moment, like, you know, she had changed her mind, but then, like, Astropro had, like, killed her. I was like, at first I was like, wait, is this a trick? But then like all that talk about her mom and stuff like that. No, I was like, not unless one of them had like, I was thinking like he said had like shape shifted into her. But I was like, now if that was the case, like I was like, no, it can't be that, right? But I was like, did Astro just really just die? And so at the same time, like there's everything with John and Zari. And because obviously Zari feels like, you know, it's all hopeless. Like, just because the battery because the battery isn't charged on the watch, they can't get to the can't get to Gideon, can't get onto the Wave Rider, and can't, you know, save Virad. So it's a situation of like, well, what do I do? You know. And she's become like, her and John kind of switch places. She becomes a little pessimistic. It's just like, it's too much. It's just, what's the point? And John's kind of like, oh, that doesn't look all good on you. And they're kind of bickering back and forth. And it's like, I wouldn't be with you with the last man on Earth. Well, I wouldn't want to be with you. And then they start making out. And it's like, oh. And the entire time you're like, yeah. And at the same time you're like, oh, poor Nate. And so they kind of do their thing. And later on you see Charlie kind of looking like, Charlie kind of recognizes, I think, that like, oh, we just shagged type of thing. And Nate's just none the wiser. He's like, you okay? They're like, yeah, better now. And it's like, oh. And everyone's kind of gathered around talking about the fact that, because obviously, like, it's a situation where Nate was like, honestly, like, a situation like this, I wouldn't mind having more of this. Because even, like, but like Constantine was like, oh, like, you know, the Loom is going to tempt you to do a lot of stuff, you know, once we bring that Behrad and Astra's mom and everything. It's like, so, like, you know, what would, like, they all be tempted to be? And Sarah was like, honestly, I wouldn't be tempted, because the fact of the matter is, I kind of have everything that I want. Like, you know, I got my babe, got you guys, like, going traveling in time. Like, that's all she really needs. I was like, oh, that's super adorable, dude. I love that. That's super sweet. That's and then, you know, Zari's like, if she has Behrad back, you know, them kind of sticking, you know, together this time. And obviously John's like, oh, I'll throw a major party. But Charlie's like, something a little deeper, huh? He's like, well, I'd make sure that, you know, Astra got to grow up with her mom around, and I'd be, you know, make sure to stick around, you know, to keep an eye on her and everything. So it's like, yeah. And then it's kind of celebrating. But Sarah, you know, Ava's like, something's definitely up. And Sarah's like, okay, so yeah, early in the episode, I did have a vision. I was like, was it all of them dying? I was like, that's got to suck cat, and constantly see that. But it's like, in particular, she saw them in this bar. She saw herself dying, and it's like, that's where her vision ends. So for her, it's like, this, you know, she just needed to get them there. She knew if she told Ava, they'd be stressed out, but like, she knew they needed to get here. And she knows, like, it's not going to charge in time before, like, she ends up dying and stuff like that. So the zombies are outside. They break in. Like I said, it's like a full-blown, like, it legitimately feels like a Walking Dead episode. Like, everybody battling it out with the zombies, burning, kicking ass. Nate stealing up. Ava with the shotgun. Sarah getting grabbed by the zombies and everything, because she was like, it's going to all be okay. Like, you are, like, you know, I believe in you. Like, I have faith that this is all going to work out, you know? And so she was telling them to go, but everyone else kind of stays behind, and they kind of push for Charlie to just go. And so it kind of becomes up to her of like, okay, so I was like, is this situation going to turn into what I think it is? And we see all like the Legends kind of fighting off the zombies, but like they're surrounded and everything because their mortality wore off. So it's all on Charlie. So it's like, in this moment, it's like, holy crap, all the Legends have died again. Because they did technically die, at least a version of them, because of the whole, Legends have died in the past, but more so like you've seen the entire team die, with the exception of Sarah, because she got wiped because she was a paradox. But all the other ones ended up dying, like in the battle against the Legion, the final battle against the Legion of Doom type of situation, you know. So it's interesting to see like this on that side of things, and obviously like Gary gives the rings to Charlie, but not before he gets killed by Astropo. And it's like, oh, so, it's like, oh, so you've come running back to us. And Charlie's like, yeah, I'm done running. So let's get to work. And it's like, she's going to play along with her sisters to be like, yeah, I'm ready. And the moment she gets the opportunity, the moment they start trying to do their thing, she'll bring back the team and do everything that she needs to do. But just, like I said, just a combination of like the nice lightheartedness, but also kind of the darker, like more serious tone of the episode is crazy with everything that, ultimately ended up going down. Because literally at this point, I mean, we can assume a lot of the legends are dead, if not all of them, but it seems like everyone's kind of dead right now. Either way, I'm very excited to see ultimately where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.